Welcome to the SEO Insider with your host, Seth Price, founder of BluShark, taking you inside the world of legal marketing and all things digital.
Welcome, everyone. We got Matt here, and Matt is a really interesting guy from the marketing space. I was so thankful to get to meet you in Miami recently and hear your story. You know, you're playing, legal may be tough, but restaurants, that's another grade of toughness dealing with that world. Tell us a little bit, how did you end up with that as a niche?
So my agency, I started in marketing in 1999 in advertising sales. And in 2008, I started what I was planning on being a digital agency, but nobody back then knew what a digital agency was. So I had to start it off with, hey, my expertise is in radio, TV, direct mail, all that type of marketing. And so that was how I started, was helping businesses locally buy their media. And then on top of that, I would layer in, hey, by the way, there's this thing called Facebook we need to be on. Email marketing is not dead, still isn't, 2023, and getting them into the digital world. And so from 2008 to 2015, I built up a local agency with about 35 clients typically, and had one employee, a couple part-timers. And in that space, that time we built up 9 restaurants. So I was exclusive for every category, but we had one client that had 3 restaurants. And then his guy that managed that company owned 3 other restaurants. And then he referred me to 2 others. Next thing I know, I got 9 restaurants. And it was the first time that I had ever been able to share what I was doing with other people. And so what I mean by that is I had a car dealership. They had 46 locations, and it was a great account, and we did a lot of really cool stuff, but I couldn't leave the car dealership and walk into the restaurant and go, my gosh, we just did this awesome Facebook ad campaign. It wouldn't transfer. And so 2015, we had a really big success. Ironically, yesterday was National Pretzel Day, April 26th. And April 26, 2015 was the first time I had done a promotion for the restaurant where they gave me the reins. And I said, hey, here's what I want to do. I want to connect the dots from our digital marketing audience to walking in the restaurant and then build a relationship with them via email, text, and retargeting campaigns. And they told me I was crazy. It wouldn't work. Well, it worked. And so at that point, I kind of threw gas on it. And by 2016, I found a guy named Billy Jean Shaw out of California, who became my first online coach, became good friends with him. And he helped me go nationwide with restaurants, because that was when he looked at my problem and said, Matt, you're trying to work with 34 different industries. At one point, we had 34 clients from 31 industries.
So you're the screaming example of where niching makes a difference. It's like a circus trick. You can do it, but like you got to reinvent yourself in each vertical.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way, this month, we doubled what I did in 2011, the entire year with our agency. And it's because we niched down. We went really, really narrow. And it took me a while. I mean, it took me from 2016 was when I realized I could do this. And it's kind of a funny conversation. Billy had said, Matt, you need to, because we had 3 breweries we were killing it with. And when I say killing it, like just the email part of what we were doing was tracking about 40 grand a month in sales at a restaurant just from the email marketing. Because I had built a system to say, hey, this person came from the website, from inside the restaurant, from Facebook, joined our email and text list, got these digital promotions, came in. And so he's like, you need to replicate this with breweries across the country. I'm like, well, I don't want to fly across the country and go to restaurants. And he's like, well, no, dumbass, there's a thing called Zoom. I'm like, oh. And so I had always had local relationships. None of my relationships were not one-to-one relationships. So it was foreign for me. So it took me, I'd say 2016, 2017 to really figure out that dynamic. And I think we ended up with like 19 restaurants the first year. Then we went to like 35 or 40 this, 2000, like say 17, 18. And then that was when I realized I couldn't be a slave to 2 masters. And I had the traditional agency and I had the restaurant agency. And so over 2019 to 2021, 2018, 2020, we wound down the traditional agency. It still exists. It's got 5 clients locally because they're people that really need our help, and it's really easy to do what we do. And then we wound up the restaurant to where I think last year we served about 800 restaurants between 2 departments.
Well, let me ask you something. Like I see it, as a guy who's focused on the legal vertical, which is hyper competitive, where we don't get access to nothing, right? They're not giving us client lists. They're not letting us do we can do retargeting online, but we're not we're not getting involved with their list management per se.
Yep.
It does seem that to work in restaurants, this is not just about getting a website to be in the 3-pack for Italian, or spending money on Yelp or something like that. I mean, this sounds like a holistic, hey, how are we going to totally bridge the gap between what is available from email to social to potentially organic or paid? But how does that, what is that continuum, that path to get a butt in seats? I assume that with promotions and discounts and free desserts or drink, whatever it is, that you're able to get better tracking than most because that will follow. But talk to me a little bit about what you've done, because it sounds like it is beyond at least my definition of digital, which is website, SEO, PPC, paid social, maybe email is beyond that. Like what is the not, I don't secret sauce, but what is the playbook for restaurants generally, even if we're not going into your secret sauce?
Let me give you a stat. I actually just wrote this morning because I'm doing 2 focus groups today with a bunch of restaurants because I'm trying to just bounce some ideas off. I'm like, well, shit, I might as well talk to them. The average American checks their phone every 5.5 minutes. They do it 11 times per hour, 262 times a day, 2,000 might be updated, but it's like, think about that. If it's 2,000 times a month, I think it's closer to 3,000 times a month based on these numbers, because I was doing the math. But 11 times an hour, somebody picks this phone up. Now, in the restaurant space, being different than a lot of other spaces, somebody buys a car every 3 to 5 years, and they're going who has the car they want, who has the deal they want, if there's a relationship. They're calling an attorney when the shit hits the fan and they need something. They're eating at restaurants 2 to 3 times a day sometimes. And so for a restaurant, the idea is, how do you show up on one of those touches every 5 minutes? Because there's on average 8 apps they're visiting per day. And within those apps are Facebook, Instagram, Gmail is one of the biggest ones. And then email on top of that, YouTube, and the browser on their phone. And so when you think about what needs to happen for success, is the restaurant, the problem they have is you look at social media. And if you chop it in the middle, you got social, you got media. What we have found is that over the years, restaurants have morphed into, hey, I don't have to buy radio or TV or billboards or direct mail anymore. I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and email. I'm just going to morph that timeline into a shit show of posts about media. All I'm going to do is advertise on it, and people tune it out. That's why you look at Papa John's, 7 million followers, and they get 100 people some days engaged in their posts. They have completely lost the entire 7 million people because they're not using the platform right.
And they likely liked it for some promotion back in the day and just don't care.
Yeah. And so what we teach restaurants, what we've found, you've got consumers going to 8 apps every 5 minutes. They're getting on their phone. We do it. You and I do it. We get on there, look at our text, go to email.
It wasn't for this podcast right now. I'll be on it right now.
Be on it right now. And so it's, how do I get a restaurant to show up in one of those? Well, it's not going to show up if all you talk about your food. You need to talk about the high school football team that just won the state championship, the girls lacrosse team that just won the championship, the high school band that was just flown to Hawaii to be one of 8 bands in the Pearl Harbor Day Parade, which happened to my kids' high school. Nobody talks about it. Well, if you talk about topics that are social, you get on people's timelines. If you send emails out that aren't always about your restaurant, people will open them. The other day, I got an email from a company called The Goat. It's a shoe place. I wear orange Jordans every day. I have a bunch of them. I have like, 30 pair of orange shoes, and we bought a lot of them from The Goat. I got an email from The Goat, not about anything else, but about Air Jordans. I opened the email. Guess what? There's an orange Air Jordan. Guess who clicked it? Me. Guess who bought another pair of orange Jordans? Me. They came in yesterday. And so I was telling this to a restaurant. I'm like, think about it. If they, over 52 weeks a year, just randomly email me stupid crap about shoes, eventually that email becomes not opened, never clicked. But because they look at what I'm doing with their brand and they email me very specific stuff, I open and I buy. So look at that from your restaurant standpoint. People don't need, if they eat at your restaurant, they love your pizza. They do not need to hear about your pizza every week, but they would love to hear about something in the community, that something's happening down the street. They know that you're a parent that lives in that zip code. hey, by the way, there's a fall harvest festival happening. They got a cool corn maze. They got this, they got that. Here's a link to their tickets. So it's how do you create those marketing touches as social versus media?
No, look, and law, that's something same in legal, right? Legal is probably less exciting. At least here, it's something delicious. You might be like free dessert. I'm like, I like free dessert. But lawyers, it's usually the substance is bad, things to do with a car accident. So yes, there's a push to that. But so let me ask you this. Is there an avatar of an acceptable client that has the sort of gravitas to play this game? You look at restaurants in the first 2 years, success rate's not great. You see people who replicate a restaurant, at least in my community. Once something is popular, they'll get 4, 5, 6 locations in the different regions of our DMV. Do you need to be at a certain point on a continuum before you have the resources to do it? Or is this something that like people right out of the box are doing?
So you've got to have, from what we've seen, and this is our research and our internal, and I will say we're the largest. So I think we've probably got the best data. But the two biggest things we start off with is you've got to be growth minded and you've got to be collaborative. That if you're not seeking how to grow, then you've already lost. And if you're not collaborative, then you've lost even worse. Because what I mean by that,
I get it.
That if you're a restaurant owner that thinks you have the answers and thinks that you know how to do it, then you're screwed. Now, I'll take it for me, for example. I've been in the fitness world for I was a college athlete. I've lifted weights consistently the last 12 years. I owned a gym for 10 years. My office has a gym. My house has a gym. And I have a lifetime membership to the gym that I sold to my buddy. I drove an hour and a half yesterday to train with my daughter where she's a trainer at a college, and then drove 3 hours for a 45-minute workout. Why? Because she knows what I need to do at a higher level. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., I drive 10 minutes to Jared. He's a personal trainer. He trains me once a week. So I've got 2 personal trainers that help me. I'm getting ready to bring on a nutritional person. I know fitness. I know how to work out. But at the same time, I need help. I'm collaborating with people to help me get to where I want to go. And so from a restaurant standpoint, the people that we find that are the ones that are going to succeed are the ones that look at it and go, okay, I'm not doing my own taxes. I'm not going to go on LegalZoom and be my own attorney. I'm going to have an HR company. I'm going to have a payroll company. I'm going to have a marketing consultant on retainer that helps me make better decisions. And that's a big part. And the other aspect, like I tell my clients, I've got 8 books on my desk I read all the time. We've got 3 books we send to our clients when they become a client of ours. And then I suggest books to them all the time. If you're not reading
what are your
books,
what are your three core books?
So the 3 core books we send them are .com Secrets by Russell Brunson, because I believe that book resonates with somebody who is a level 1 on digital marketing and a level 10. It's very elementary, the idea behind it, but even somebody that's very seasoned, if they haven't read it, goes, shit, this makes sense. And it takes you back to the roots. If you're a restaurant owner who doesn't really understand digital marketing, it gives you a good base. The second one is Grant Cardone's 10X. I believe, I'm not a huge fan of some of his stuff, but I 100% believe in his analogy that we all are capable of doing a lot more. And what I've seen in the restaurant space and even small business is that the majority of people are just doing enough. And I'm like, screw doing enough. I want to step on people's throats and get to the next level. I want to go hard and fast. And then the third one is my book, Restaurant Marketing That Works, not because I wrote it, but because it's the next step. You understand the commitment and effort you need. You understand, there's actually a 4th book. I lied. It's this one right here, Restaurant Prosperity Formula. This is a restaurant industry book, the best one I've ever seen, The Guys and the Beast on operations of restaurants. And so we have one for mindset. We have one for basics of digital marketing. We have one, my book, which, look, this is how you take Russell Brunson stuff and put it into the restaurant world. And then, hey, by the way, I can drive people to your restaurant. Like we had a client, this goes back July of last year. 500 customers on average were coming in the front of their funnel into the restaurant. 2 months in, she calls my rep and she goes, man, we're losing $8,000 a month from your program. How are you losing $8,000 a month? We can see 500 people walking to the front door. I don't know. I can't figure it out. By complete coincidence, and I'm not a big religious guy, but shit happens for a reason. The rep, and this is a restaurant that's an hour and a half away from our office. Her rep from Performance Food Group walks in our front door. Happens to be up here. Wants to stop by and say hi to our headquarters. He's like, hey, by the way, I was down at that restaurant the other day. I'm like, yeah, I just talked to her. Like, what's going on? He's like, She's selling the pizza, the BOGO. She's doing a buy one, get one free that's driving 500 people. I've been telling her for a year that item she's losing $2 on. So you drove 500 people in to get a item she's losing $2 on. There's $1,000 gone. And then she's giving those 500 people a free version, that's now $10 times 500 people. There's $5,000. So there's $6,000 she just gave away because she's improperly pricing her food. That's where this guy comes in. This guy's business is all about understanding how to operate a restaurant, which restaurants, unfortunately, a lot of times go, hey, why is my burger $10? Because the place I worked at 3 years ago had a $10 burger that did well. Not it's $10 based on the fact that I have $8.72 in it. I need to mark it up this much.
It's so funny you say this because I'm an end consumer. I want to talk. I'll come back to the analogies to my world in a second. But I am finding something with COVID, post-COVID, inflation, et cetera, that there are places that I shied away from because I always thought they were, by my standards, too expensive for what they were, that are now smack in the middle. That there's it's an interesting world that we're in right now, where you're right. For many years, people didn't raise anything, and at least in our market, everybody's shooting up like crazy. Some people disproportionately making it so that elite places are now, the $17 burger used to be an extraordinary burger. Now it's sort of in the middle, and that you can now actually arbitrage in places that were sort of like obnoxious. Are now a value buy by comparison to the schlock places that have now raised prices. Just interesting. I don't know if you're seeing stuff in the market like that.
Oh yeah, exactly that. And that's where this instance comes in is I've got to arm our clients. Here's a book on how to operate your restaurant better. Here's a book on how to understand digital marketing. Here's a book on how to understand restaurant digital marketing. And here's a book on how to get your mindset to realize that you need to quit trying to grow by 20 grand and try to grow by 200 grand.
Well, right. It's interesting because I see the same thing. So we have a rule at BluShark, for example, that for advanced SEO, and I call that for like $4,000 or more a month, where you can get some real meat. We go 4 to 40, but like to do SEO and not just have a website with local and hope that it works or have a building block for the future, that 400,000 for a lawyer is the over under on gross revenue before we're comfortable pushing somebody to that world. It's less unless it's family money or you're independently wealthy or something like that. You're not going to cash flow. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to wait for SEO, for example, to kick in, and you're not going to have enough paid to make it worthwhile. Yada yada. You might do some paid
stress. It's almost too much stress on their cash flow, which puts stress on them.
Exactly. However, what you just said is something that I've not heard articulated as well, which is, and I talk to people. Hey, if you're a lawyer, just like you have one restaurant, and you're like, yeah, I'm getting by, I want to improve a little bit. Like the marketing doesn't work nearly as well as somebody says, hey, I'm solo now with an admin, but I want 3 associates in the next 5 years.
Yep.
That's, that would be the equivalent of like 3 other locations in your world. Like if you want to have a 4 or 5 location juggernaut, what you're going to need to get there is not something that's likely within your own DNA if you started it because you were really great at making pizza. If you're a savant in the kitchen, the odds of you knowing that. And so when I look at who succeeds and who are the guys that are now pulling down, 9-figure verdicts in my world, it's the guys who allowed us and had that growth mindset. I mean, it's sort of, when we hire people, we do personality testing. Do you guys use any sort of filter on the way in so that you don't just, have people come and leave? How do you sort of vet for that X factor?
We have our core values. So from 2008 until now, we've had 1 employee quit and we've had 3 fired. And we're sitting right around right now 50 to 55 employees. And about 8 months ago, we had these core values that we believed in: positive mindset, growth oriented, collaborative. That when you come on board, like for example, if a salesperson, like I have 16 salespeople and I'm hiring 8 more, I show them this. This is my non-negotiables. This is what got MP, me, Matt Plapp, to this seat. If you want it, come get it. And I have on here like the blueprint, this song by Jay-Z. You must have a positive mindset, be growth oriented, be ready to take whatever actions necessary.
And what's the flip side?
Yeah, and the flip side, like this is a salesperson. Work out 5 times a week, read and study every day, Cardone you Monday through Friday, work 65 plus hours a week, no outside distractions, head always on a swivel, and think about your goals daily. I put this in front of people. I don't want my sales guys to work 65 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, but I want them to understand that if you're going to play in my world, you better be ready to run hard and quick. And if that intimidates you, do not apply. I show it to them, and when they get hired, they get it, and it's on their desk. I walked in this morning. I have a portable speaker I carry around. I walked in our sales bullpen this morning playing Jay-Z's song, The Blueprint, and they all knew why I was playing it. And so we have something similar with our clients. So we have a core values that says, here's what we stand for. And what happens, like in our world, we have two divisions that sell two separate products that piggyback. But then in the main division, the marketing services side, there's three levels: 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. And then the 30,000 kind of goes up from there based on number of locations. The 10, the 20, you can come play in our world all you want. You get a product, you get a training, cool. You want to get to the 30 plus, you have to be signed off on by an executive on our team that you fit our core values. And we literally, after the third phone call, or on the third phone call, the Google Zoom call, we share our core values. And we say, hey, here's what's near and dear to us: positive mindset, growth oriented and collaborative. And we have a page for each one of those.
And that's monthly spend for each restaurant.
No, that's 30 grand annually. So they're for them to hire and have access to our team to be, in essence, a mobile marketing department. They have 5 people from our team that help them manage their entire online and marketing period, in person, radio, TV, whatever. They have to pass that test. Like I asked the guy the other day, we talked about it. I said, positive mindset. We're here to win, and so are you. We had a client we fired 3 months ago because he always was bitching about this $100, that $50. He tried to negotiate our rate. I said, and he's like, Matt, I don't care about your company's profit. I care about mine. I said, well, that's why you're fired. Because if you don't care about mine, why should I care about yours? I have to be profitable to help you. You have to be profitable for us to stay on as a client. And so that is a positive mindset, but it's also collaborative. And so we lay those out, and that flyer, there's 4 pages. And the 4th page is 2 QR codes to 2 songs. But I tell people, listen to these songs. They get a copy of it. Listen to these songs. These should be things that resonate with you. If we're not on the same page, I don't want you as a client, because what's going to happen is my employees all live by this. And what happens is if we get somebody in our world that's not positive mindset, that, oh shit, COVID, the president, this, like, we don't do that crap. Like it's about how can we make money? How can we help create a better product? How can we help get more customers? How can we do better? It's all positive. And if you come into our world and start spewing that crap, or, hey, this sucks or that sucks, well, guess what? Like my success coaches now get mad because they have a client that sucks, and that trickles down to the operations, which trickles down to this. And then, with 3 months into the relationship, we get a client that's like, oh, well, this isn't going to work. Well, it's not going to work because you don't fit our core values. Well, shame on us for, 12 years for never showing our core values. We always just kind of did it, and we got bad clients. Now we show that and say, is this you? This is a 1-year commitment, no matter what level you're at. And if you're going to be at the bigger level and play directly with my team and have access to my team 5 days a week, 12 hours a day, then you need to be exactly how we are. And if you're not, I don't need the money. Have fun.
Let me ask you a question, because you obviously, I love this. I mean, this is passion. That is, there's a reason why you're agency of the year. I get this. You do something that's sort of counterintuitive. A lot of people would say, hey, it's a 1-year commitment. It's $800 a month, $1,600 a month, or $2,400 a month. You're using a scary number. Mm-hmm. I think we talked about this once offline. Talk to me. You're making it. You're talking about it this way. Why that way? Most of the world is the opposite, which is, let me give you a non-scary number. $800 a month. Who cares? I'll do that. 10,000. Oh my God, that sounds scary. Why do you go that way?
Because they have to realize the buy-in. I had a friend about 4 years ago who's been on a weight loss journey. Every 6 months he quits, he starts. And the reason he quits is nobody has sat down with him. And I said, dude, you got fat over 10 years. You've got 5 years of sucking. You have to eat a lot better. You have to exercise a lot more. You have to exercise with a lot more intensity. You have to control your sleep. You have to manage your stress. You have to stretch. You have to do a lot of things. You have a 5-year journey because you neglected yourself for 10 years. Suck it up. Well, our restaurant clients are no different. They have gotten fat when it comes to marketing. They aren't very good at it. They do not know how to sell. And so it's like, hey, if I tell you that we're $2,200 a month, okay, you're thinking that in a month or two, this is going to get fixed. No, tough shit. It's not. Like, what you've created cannot be fixed. Where I got that from, what really resonated the most with me was I saw a video, Grant Cardone years ago, where he's in his office and he walks up to the desk and he sees one of his sales guys on the call and he's listening. He walks up and he hits speakerphone and he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Grant. Who am I talking to?" The guy's like, "This is Mike. Mike, let's talk. What are you doing? What do you got going?" He sat there and spent like 5 minutes with him, hearing about his business. And he's like, "I'm looking at the screen," because he had the notes from his sales guy. He says, "This call is for you to sign on today. Are you signing on today?" "Well, I'm not sure yet. I'm the $1,500 a month." He goes, "That's not $1,500 a month, Chief." "What do you mean?" He goes, "It's $100,000 over the next." He goes, "100,000?" He goes, "Yeah, because in order for this to work, you're going to have to put in place what we teach you for the next 3 years. If you think $1,500 a month, you're going to look around in 2 months and go, well, does this really work? But if you think this amount, it's a bigger thing. It's kind of the opposite of cars and homes.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I crack up because like a lot of people I'll talk to, like it's two ends of it. People will buy a car and go, "Oh, $500 a month, cool," but they don't think like what they actually bought or what they're paying for it. And then
couldn't agree more.
And on a house, the same way. Like I had a friend the other day who was complaining about like 10 grand on a house. I'm like, dude, 10 grand on a house? Like what was that, $20 a month? Who gives a shit? Quit eating at Chipotle 5 days a week. And it's the mindset. And so I want
you're in Kentucky, not in the DC DMV where 10 grand is the monthly mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Here you can get a 600,000, like we have a guy getting ready to move from New York, and a $600,000 house here is 2 million in New York.
Easy.
Yeah.
Well, the lot itself is 1 point something. So
yeah, so with regards to our clients,
yeah,
I want our clients to understand what they're spending. I used to be the opposite way. Hey, it's $599. It's this. It's like, no, it's $30,000 to $50,000 a year to do it right. And it's going to take you 2 to 3 years, because if you think like I'm right now, I kind of recommitted. I've been working out consistently for 12 years. The last 2 years, our company has grown so much that I've just been going through the motions at the gym. I turned around at the beach 3 weeks ago and I'm like, holy crap. Like I'm not going to complain and say I'm obese, but I need to lose about 12 pounds. And I committed to myself. I said, hey, I'm going to make a change in the next 12 months. I'm going to lose that 12 pounds. Now, some people will go 12 pounds. You can lose that in a month. I'm like, I want to lose it correctly. And I'm also setting expectations. I didn't get this extra 12 pounds. It took 2 years of me going to the CrossFit gym and kind of working out. I was going through the motions. I barely crawled out of there Tuesday night. I went so hard. I was on the ground for 20 minutes, like trying to figure out where the hell I was at. I want that commitment from my clients. If you own a restaurant, you've signed on the dotted line for equipment, you've got 30 to 50 employees that depend on you, you've got their house payment, their car payment, you've got all of this stuff. If you're not willing to take this type of approach to your marketing and commit the money, then why? And 30 to 50 grand at the end of the day isn't a big deal. That if you're, I had a guy the other day was like talking about it. I said, we're about $500 to $700 a week at our highest level. That's what you pay a dishwasher, and he's washing dishes. My team gives you 5 people and an expert coach that helps you get from 800,000 to $1.2 million the next couple of years. That's why we talk about the bigger dollar amount up front, because I could easily say, oh, it's, $500 a week is all it is. I'm like, no, it's 30 to 50 grand, which breaks down to this once we have a conversation.
No, that's just fascinating. I love it. In our limited time left, I wanted to pivot to a topic that is a hot topic in the legal space, and I'm sure in the restaurant space, which is reviews. Because, on the digital side, one of the areas, whether it be from, Google, which dominates our space, I assume you have to deal with Yelp and TripAdvisor to a lesser extent, depending on the market. What are some of the best practices you see? Because for us in legal, we are in a world where, based on the proximity update about 2 years ago, that Google really wants to see close to home. And for you guys, that's not as big a deal because, you're not going to drive 45 minutes for a restaurant. Google used to give us in the legal space, a single location could dominate a market if it was optimized right. And now they're like, yeah. Near me is essentially a precursor, even if you don't type it in for every search. Which means we need not just reviews for one location, but we're now the regional restaurant with 5 places in a DMV. Yep. What are some of the best, because I'll tell you my story and shut up, but I was in Vegas, my friends all left, one guy was left, we want a Korean barbecue. So we go to Yelp, type it in, found a place with 600 5-star reviews. It was awesome. We go there, it was cheap, good. It wasn't great. It was B plus Korean barbecue by my standards. And I'm like, how the hell do they have the? And then he said, oh, it's time for a dessert. And it's like, oh, if you review us on Yelp, it's here's a free scoop of ice cream.
Yeah.
And they just, it wasn't like you have to give it 5 stars, but who's going to show the waiter that it's not?
Yep.
And I thought it was brilliant. I'm sure it violates their terms of service, so it's not one you want to do like loud and proud. But that said, what are you doing? Because that is something that is not necessarily natural. How do you get the review count up?
So a couple of things that are important with restaurant reviews. So Seth, let's say I own a restaurant and you're sitting there eating a steak and I own the restaurant and I walk by your table and you go, Matt, amazing steak. In any circumstance, would I ever just keep walking by you?
Shouldn't.
I don't think has ever happened in person, but it happens digitally every day. And so one of the things we teach our clients is, hey, you guys are focused on the negative reviews. You get 10 negative reviews every month. You get 200 positive. Get into that review and comment. Mike, we appreciate your 5-star review. We're stoked that you loved your steak and our blue cheese that comes on top of it. By the way, who was your server? Oh, it was Mary. Oh my gosh, Mary's a rock star. She's got 2 kids.
It becomes user-generated content.
Yeah. And so it's like, how do we, number one, you talk to everybody because you would never ignore some. And when I tell that example to restaurant owners, it's funny. 90% of them do not respond to their reviews. And if they do, it's some robotic BS. And I'm like, no, take the time. A busy restaurant in most markets we deal in might get 5 reviews on a good day. You're telling me your lazy ass can't pull your phone out and reply to 5 reviews? Very specific. Who was your server? What did you have? And even we'll tell them also, like we give them little tips because there are some of the platforms that helps with SEO. And it's like, hey, Mike, we agree. We think that we have the best steak in Florence, Kentucky. Who was your server? And all of a sudden, somebody Googles best steak, Florence, Kentucky. That review, I'm not an SEO guy.
I wish that was one thing. I'd be cautious because what we're seeing, I'm waiting for that. Maybe it's happened. I haven't seen it yet, where the clients or the patrons review is searchable. Generally, the comment is not. I look, if I could keyword stuff every response, I'd be retired.
And some of that too pulls through the website.
But let's take it is you are creating a conversation out of the review, which is not just like if you can get a string going. That I get it. At what point? Because look, I tell people in the legal space, we get negative reviews when somebody calls and we don't do that area of law and they get upset or we can't take their case or whatever it is. As you do, somebody calls and the line's too long and they don't want to come in, right? So how are there points of happiness that you find are better than others to get a review? If that owner comes by, would a direct ask from the owner in person be better, or does a text message afterwards? What do you see as the best practices? Because look, the restaurants have such volume that if somebody joins a loyalty program or you get there, I'm amazed how many times there is no information given. You take a tour on vacation and you get 17 follow-ups to leave them a review. And not that you want that for a restaurant, but at least one saying, how was it? Google doesn't love the gating of reviews, but you can also just personally find out for yourself. How was it? Anything we could do better? And if it's good, here's the opportunity. So you must have some rock star clients that have hit the secret sauce. Give me some sort of what are some of the hacks or things that you've seen? As I'm looking, whether it be legal or medical or whatever, so many fewer patrons coming through. But the same principles apply. What do you see the guys who get not 5 a day, but the guys who get 25 a day? What are they doing differently?
So they have a program in place that we've built for them that allows for people to reply privately based on we know a visit. So for example, I'll give you some scary stats. 93% of restaurants do nothing inside the restaurant to gather data. So if you don't know Matt Plapp was there, how in the hell can you have a conversation? The 7% that actually have a tool inside the restaurant that can, only 3% use it correctly. So I want you to think about this. When was the last time you walked into a restaurant that somebody engaged you in a way that got you to give you your information to them? Probably never.
The only ones are the ones with loyalty programs.
Yeah. And here's a good stat for you there. Loyalty programs apply to 8 to 11% of the customers at restaurants, and 50% of the usage comes from the top 10% of the loyalty members. So in essence, if you've got 50,000 customers a year coming to your restaurant, there's about 400 or 500 that are engaged in loyalty. So that's useless as a winner take all. It's a bullet and a gun. The way we do it is that one of the things we focus on big time is how do we acquire the customer's data with an ethical bribe? Free burger. Hey, your next visit, I want you to have a free dessert. Scan this code for your next visit. Boom. You're on Facebook, comment below, click this link to get something for a visit, and then you're on the website. So our goal is to get the people to walk into the restaurant with a digital promotion. They walk in the restaurant with a digital promotion, and this is where it's funny on our end, because some restaurants are like, oh, I can't give away a buy one, get one free burger. I'm like, you're thinking short term. Number one, that customer's data is worth probably $500. So if you get my name, phone number, visit frequency, and email address, and my birthday, that is worth hundreds of dollars of future sales used correctly. But even more important, we can see about 30% of them walk in the restaurant the first 60 days. They use that buy one, get one free burger. And I now know that you were in the restaurant. So digitally through Facebook Messenger, we say, Seth, we appreciate you coming by today. How would you rate your visit 1 to 5? If somebody gives that a 1, 2, or 3, we already have their contact info. They click that, it goes, man, we apparently dropped the ball. We would love to have a conversation with you to find out how we can fix what we did. We apologize. Well, then at the same time, a text and an email just went to the contact for that restaurant that said, Matt Plapp had lunch today, spent this much money. Here's his phone number. Here's his name. Here's his customer classification. He's a new, frequent, or lost. So that way the owner can call up and go, Matt, I apologize. We messed up your first visit. That language changes when they know certain things. So then the next part, let's say a 4 or 5-star review. I'll give you an example of this. Dean, one of our clients from Fire Brew Cafe, who's down in Virginia Beach, is the #1 rated restaurant TripAdvisor in his region. You know why? Well, one, he gives badass service. That's the key. So that's there. But we got people to give him a review because we target locals and tourists through Facebook and Instagram. We get them to join a VIP program. They walk in the restaurant. They use that irresistible offer. It's not, hey, here's a free appetizer with a purchase of 4 entrees and 17 drinks. It's, here is a free appetizer. Walk your ass in here and be a customer. Well, then they then leave a review. And his reviews, if they give a 4 or 5, it says, we appreciate your business. We appreciate your 4-star review. We would love if you left this on TripAdvisor. Here's a link. And people go there. I'll actually pull up my my browser. I'll pull up a screen and see give you the exact numbers on his programs. We track all this. And one of the reasons we used to early on give people 3 links. We'd give them Google, Facebook, and like TripAdvisor. We found out that like nobody's clicking 3 links. And so we said, Dean, what is the most important for you? Matt, with me being tourism and locals, TripAdvisor's key. So on his dashboard, let's see here. He has had 226 4 or 5-star reviews come in. He's had 4, 3, 1, 2, or 3. So in our internal system, he has a 4.9 rating right there.
Which
and
makes
those 222 people, and this is just the last month, those 222 people were given a link and said, hey, we would appreciate if you shared this. I think there's a message there like, this means a lot to us. This would help us be found by other customers. We'd appreciate if you shared this with TripAdvisor. They click the link. And so
the answer is 1. Do you then moneyball it? Okay, TripAdvisor's locked. You're 20% more than the next best. Do you then say, hey, let's take on Google? Okay,
yeah, exactly.
We're good with Google.
Yep.
And with Yelp, this is one that we don't deal with a lot, but it's, I obviously follow it industry wide. It's a miserable situation when you be an active Yelper. Do you have any mechanism to try to figure out who's an active Yelper to be able to target those people?
No, we just look at whether the client needs the juice, and we'll rotate it and say, hey, you need more Yelp. Like we had a client recently that had 4.3 on Yelp, which isn't terrible, but I'd like to see 4.5 to 4.7.
4.5.
But we also looked, and he only had like 60 reviews. And I said, dude, it ain't going to take much. And in his database, we had built a database of like 3,000 people, and 2,000 told us they were frequent or they had become new customers. Well, we can look in there and see, hey, these are 1,500 frequent customers. Email them out, text them out. Hey, we'd love a review here. Next thing you know, you get 55-star reviews and you're at 4.7.
What question with Yelp specifically, but knowing that you only some customers will count if they don't use Yelp. Do you screen it all to figure out who's on Yelp, or you just send it out there? So you have a bunch filtered, but you know that you get some percentage that go through.
Yeah.
Matt, this is awesome. I appreciate it. I'm going to return the favor for you being here. A restaurateur friend in DC, you guys got to meet, who has a place called Medium Rare. It's a concept that's about to go national. There are 3 in the DC market. It came out of Paris, where you get for 20 some odd bucks, a Caesar salad and 2 portions of steak frites. That's it. That's the whole menu. There's one off menu vegetarian option, but alcoholic desserts are extra. He's crushing it. He did a huge he has a feed the fridge program that spun out of COVID, where he took excess capacity at restaurants during COVID, had them do meals at cost, and then put them in fridges in poor neighborhoods where people needed.
That's awesome.
So it's awesome. And this is red meat in a market that is very blue, where red meat is not in vogue necessarily. And they have been crushing it because like just the goodwill. So our market is one that people vote with their pocketbooks. Yeah. Some guy comes out as a nasty restaurateur, bad in the kitchen with women. Next thing you know, 20 restaurants gone. Literally, this has happened in DC. So anyway, I'm going to introduce you to Mark Bucher, great friend of mine, and hopefully you guys can figure out how your genius and his blossoming business come together. But Matt, thank you so much for being here, and hopefully meet you in Miami or some other place fun sometime soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the SEO Insider with Seth Price. Be sure to check back next week for fresh insights into building your brand's online presence. Episodes are available to stream directly on BluShark Digital's website.